Hello, everybody. This is Kay, and you're listening to Pod Rainbow Science. In this episode, as I promised you the last time, we're going to talk about HIV vaccine. So let's go. Hello, once again. As I promised you the last time, in this episode, I'm going to talk about HIV vaccine, whether it is effective or not really, whether we're close to end the epidemic of HIV and AIDS or not, and whether we should trust the media, for instance, MSNBC or CNN, who hailed HIV vaccine from Moderna as a breakthrough or a turning point of HIV epidemic. But first, let's take a look at the statistics. Every year, about 1 to 2 million people acquire HIV. And in 2020, it was approximately 40 million people living with HIV. And this number, of course, could be way higher if we didn't implement the effective antiretroviral therapy in 1995. Until this year, 1995, a number of people living with HIV was dramatically increasing year after year. And after 1995, the number of persons living with HIV still increase, but the increase is visibly slower and not as steep as it was before. However, slowing down the pandemic or the epidemic actually is not a goal, and it wasn't really a goal. The goal is to stop or at least maximally limit the epidemic. For example, PrEP, the pre-exposure prophylaxis, got us significantly closer to this goal. However, to build the herd immunity or to eradicate the HIV completely from the population, vaccines against HIV are necessary. And some time ago, news broke that HIV vaccine is almost ready, and in the middle of the COVID pandemic, we are close to end the other epidemic, the HIV and AIDS. Of course, mRNA technology plays a significant role in this case. And since HIV is an RNA virus, the mRNA vaccine works like this. You get the virus RNA transmitted into your immune system with vaccine jab. And RNA is recognized by your immune system, and thanks to this RNA, your system is inspired to produce antibodies to fight against HIV. Just like it works in the case of COVID, mRNA vaccine like Pfizer, BioNTech, or Moderna, it works exactly the same. So it gives the virus RNA, and your immune system is reacting. Your immune system is producing antibodies to fight against COVID or whatever vaccine you get. But in the case of COVID, you got the RNA vaccine, and your body starts to produce antibodies. So when you get in touch with the virus, so for example, you have contact with someone who has COVID, your immune system is preliminarily ready to fight it. However, in the case of HIV vaccines, the HIV vaccines are pretty hard to be prepared. And the road to effective vaccine is more windy and longer compared with the COVID way. But before we look at the answer why it's like this, we need to take a look at the history of HIV vaccine. Or actually HIV vaccines, because it's not one history. It's not just the one vaccine. The HIV vaccine was tested since 1987 with hundreds of candidates participating in research. Those research aimed at finding the vaccine efficient enough to protect a significant portion of population from getting HIV. There are several trials that have been completed. They were conducted between 1998 and 2017. Those are those trials that I read, and those are the trials that have been described very well. And overall, a few thousand of people were enrolled to participate. And to be more precise, over 30,000 people were enrolled. And those vaccines were based on different glycoproteins. And I'm not a virologist, so I don't want to brag about the technology of vaccines too much. But as far as I know, the vaccines can be based and provided using different parts of the virus. So some of them might use the RNA of the virus, while others can use glycoproteins to stimulate human immune system to produce antibodies. And all of those studies were properly applied with controlled groups and placebo groups, and participants were tested for HIV before they were enrolled. However, the first 4 trials showed no protective effect at all, or even some of them increased infections in experimental group. It is, however, very unlikely that increased number of cases with HIV was directly related to vaccination. The possible explanation is that people who got their vaccine were more likely to engage in unprotected sex because, for example, they believed that vaccine is effective. So they might, for instance, more often dispense with condoms. And to date, the RV144 study, it is the name of the study, or actually the name of the trial, RV144, showed the decrease in infection rates, and the decrease was equal to 31%. What's interesting, the post-hoc analysis, and for those of you who are not familiar with the research procedure, the post-hoc analyses are those analyses which are conducted after the major analysis. So, for example, your major aim is to compare men and women in terms of their adherence to regular physical activity, and this is your main goal of the study. And you find out that, for example, women present greater adherence, but you want to know something more. So you decide to conduct several post-hoc tests to see whether all women present greater adherence, or, for instance, only those who have higher education, or only those who had previous experience with sport, and so on. And in the case of HIV vaccine, the post-hoc analysis covered the changes in the virus itself. So the researchers were interested whether giving the vaccine to a person changes the virus when a person is infected. And analysis conducted on 2 trials showed that HIV vaccine enhanced the virus to evolve and to become a little different, so that it could more easily omit the antibodies that were produced in reaction to the vaccine. The same thing is happening with the coronavirus, actually, especially in the populations with low rate of vaccination, when there are only 20 or 30% of the population vaccinated. Greater immune pressure is exerted, the greater immune pressure is exerted on the virus, and the virus is mutating. And the very new mutation is attacking those people who are not vaccinated. So the virus can replicate freely. And this is how it works with basically all the viruses. So this is nothing surprising to us. But thanks to those post-hoc analyses, the new type of vaccines with additional correlates of protection could be provided, and now RV144 second trial presented increased effectiveness. Right now, a few HIV vaccines trials are in progress. They are of different types and technologies, and some of them are glycoprotein based, some of them are vector vaccines like adenovirus vaccine, for example, and some are DNA based vaccines. And those DNA are usually called mRNA vaccines. And I want to come back for a while to this RV144 trial, which showed the moderate efficacy. It was conducted on the Thai sample, and in Thailand, the most common subtypes of HIV are subtype E and subtype B of HIV1. So HIV1, you might remember it from the last episode. This is the most common type of HIV. So about 40 million of people is now infected with HIV1, and only 2 million, maybe 2.5 million people are infected with HIV2. But coming back to Thailand, the most prevalent type of the most prevalent subtypes of HIV are E and B, and the vaccination was adapted to those two subtypes, showing 31 decrease of incidence of infection. But 31 is definitely not enough to accept it as an effective vaccine. So the second trial of RV144 was conducted in South Africa with adjustment to subtype C of the virus. And subtype C is more prevalent in South Africa as compared to subtype E, which is more prevalent in Thailand. Hey there! Thank you for being with me and listening to the show. I just want to remind you that you can listen to this podcast on Apple, Spotify, Google Podcasts, YouTube, or whatever platform you get your podcast from. And don't forget to click the subscribe button to get notifications about new episodes. But if you want to support the show, tell your friends about it to help me reach out to more people. And you can also click the link in the description and buy me a coffee. I'll drink it while working on the next episodes. Thanks again for being with me and enjoy the rest of this episode. Long story short, the vaccine against subtype C nor subtype B in South Africa was effective enough. So the effectiveness was comparable, or even some people say that it was lower than this trial from Thailand. However, even though it was somehow effective, the proportion of participants responded to the smaller proportion of participants responded to the C-type vaccine. So the B-type was okay, but the C-type vaccine wasn't really fine. Again, the vaccine couldn't be recognized as an effective one. But what we've learned from those trials is that definitely region-based research is necessary to provide an effective vaccination against HIV. And first, because in different regions of the world, different subtypes of virus are prevalent. And second, because in different regions, HIV, despite its subtype, could be more or less prevalent. Therefore, vaccine should increase the immunity in all regions. So, or even especially those in which people are at higher exposure. And currently, the greatest attention inside of the world focused on the Moderna vaccine, the mRNA type vaccine, just like the COVID one. Moderna recently started human trials for this vaccine, and human trials are usually one of the final stages of the research. First stages include trials on animals or artificial, like in vitro analysis. Usually small doses of drugs or vaccines are used in those initial stages, just to see whether it is working at all. And the next phases are based on therapeutic dose and population sample. or actually sampled from the population, not the population sample. In this study, Moderna decided to include adults only, the healthy adults, and health was assessed using a medical history of an individual and physical examination, of course, before enrolling someone to this trial. And participants in this study would be tested for HIV, and they are to participate in risk reduction counseling. So they're going to be advised on which sexual activity is less and which is more risky when it comes to HIV transmission. So they must be told that probably anal sex is more risky than vaginal sex, and they're going to be advised that an active person in sexual contact is burdened with smaller risk than a passive one, and so on. So it is going to be like the basic sexual health counseling. What else? Women of reproductive age, and this is quite interesting. Women of reproductive age, because all genders can, of course, participate in the study, those women must commit to use an effective methods of contraception. So that is condoms, intrauterine device, or hormonal contraception, or a male partner must be after vasectomy. So he should be unable to fertilize the female participant. Lesbian and bisexual participants, so those who are engaging in same-sex activities, obviously don't have to use contraceptives, but when they decide to have sex with with person of different sex, they are supposed to use contraceptives, just like heterosexual persons. Besides that, all female participants would undergo urine pregnancy tests at time points scheduled indicated in the schedule. They, however, and I'm not really sure about it, but they don't clarify whether by female they understand cisgender female or all females. But I guess the genitals are of the greatest importance here, so possibly by saying female, they understand all people who can get pregnant or have the female-like genitals. So this is how I understand it. And of course, blood samples will be tested over the course of the study. The most important exclusion criteria include HIV positive status, so of course people cannot be already infected with HIV. Autoimmune disease, so those people who suffer from hyperthyroidism or other similar conditions must be excluded. And hepatitis B and C positive persons are also excluded, as well as sex workers and illicit drug users. And of course, pregnant participants cannot be also included. What's interesting, the exclusion criteria also includes seizure disorders, so there is epilepsy, BMI over 35, so overweight people cannot be included in this study, and also people whose body weight is below 50 kilograms. 50 kilograms, it's about 110 pounds. So when you're lighter than this, you cannot participate. When it comes to age, a trial sample consists of persons aged between 18 and 51. And study according the whole study, this phase on human participants, according to the clinicaltrials.gov, started on November 12th this year. So November 12th, 2021. Would it be the new beginning in the fight of HIV? I don't know. I'm not sure. I guess we can be cautiously optimistic, and the more we know about the virus, the more effective we are in finding the vaccine or treatment. But HIV is very, I would say, very intelligent virus, or maybe intelligent is not the best word, but it's very shrewd virus. So HIV can rapidly evolve to produce new mutations, so it can slip from antibodies pretty easily. And also it's great at camouflaging itself in human cells, so it becomes invisible to human antibodies and to human immune system. However, mRNA technology seems to be a good way to be one step forward and just one step before another mutation. And this, according to what is officially said by Moderna CEOs, this new Moderna study will follow the stepwise approach. So first, they're going to activate the immature B cells, and those cells would develop the broadly neutralizing antibodies before a person is even exposed to the virus, and then those B cells would be guided to neutralize the specific area on the virus. This area which enable the virus to bind to the human cells. So according to what they write, and according to what I understand from this, with this vaccine, they're trying to cut off the virus hands so that it can not hold on to human cells. And Mark Feinberg, who is the president and CEO of the International AIDS Vaccine Initiative, says that this research is in the very early process. So it's still a long way to go, and vaccine against HIV would be ready. It wouldn't be ready in 2 or 3 years. We're talking rather about 10 or 15 years. But maybe technology is going to surprise us. We never know. Anyway, according to Mr. Feinberg, and according to the professors of virology, for instance, Dr. Sajadi, vaccine against HIV must be a weapon against more than one enemy. And we have just more than one target to effectively eliminate here. So in the case of this vaccine, this new Moderna trial, I would be less hooray and less optimistic than CNN and MSNBC and other media, which hailed this new idea as the end of AIDS epidemic. This is not so easy. But I'm definitely looking forward to the results of this study, and the estimated completion date is set to April 11th, 2023. But the exact date can be a little later, because some people may drop out of the study, other people can get infection, women might get pregnant or want to get pregnant, so they would have to resign from participation and so on. So many things can happen on the way, and still, since the number of participants is set to 56, new persons would have to be recruited, so it can take a little longer than estimated. But we'll see. To date, the vaccine against HIV, due to its specificity and unique ability to rapidly mutate, and due to its ability to camouflage in human cells, the vaccine is not yet available, and we're not close to this being available. However, there are many new ideas in the scientific world, and new technologies are being applied in vaccine production. So just now, one by one, all of them are verified. So hopefully we'll find an effective vaccine against at least the majority of HIV subtypes. Since then, we are left with what we got so far. That is testing, of course, very effective antiretroviral therapy, and of course PrEP. And increasing number of persons aware of their infection, increasing number of persons on treatment will automatically decrease the number of new infections. And in addition, publicly available pre-exposure prophylaxis, I believe it's all able to dramatically limit the number of new cases and keep HIV and AIDS on a very, very low level, even without having a vaccine. Nevertheless, I'll keep my eye on this Moderna trial. Maybe they'll update preliminary reports before April 2023, so we'll be able to see how this technology is doing with limiting the infections. But of course, I'll keep you up to date, and if I know anything more, I will post it on Twitter or Instagram. And of course, I will do another episode if we know anything more. And now I guess that's all I wanted to tell you about this not so turning point on the way to the effective HIV vaccine. In the next episode, we're gonna take a break from epidemic, pandemic, and physical health issues, and I'm gonna tell you something about internalized homophobia, what it is, how internalized homophobia affects us on a daily basis, and how to alleviate its impact on our well-being and self-confidence. By now, thank you very much for listening to this episode. If you want to read something more about vaccines, I'll post the links to some interesting studies in the description. Of course, I hope you all stay healthy and safe. And since this is the end of the year, I guess you're all up to your eyes in work, new things to learn, projects to do, and so on. Depends on what you do in life. So let's keep our fingers crossed for us to pace with dignity to the end of this year. And take care. If you have any questions, don't hesitate. Just email me or DM on Twitter or any other social media platform. Thank you for today. And until next time. Bye.